Working, he can tell me. Okay, good. They accommodated me already. All right, thanks for coming. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Joe Fluet, and this is a brief overview of legal entrepreneurship. And as you can see from the slide with the Love Me stuff on it, I've had some success as an entrepreneur. I founded half a dozen or so companies. They've all done well. Some have done extremely well, including the one you're sitting in right now, one of the most successful, I think, mid-sized law firms in Northern Virginia, and eventually will be a large law firm in Northern Virginia. And I wanted to make this lecture not just about entrepreneurship. I spent a fair amount of time speaking on entrepreneurship and other things, but I wanted to make this specifically about legal entrepreneurship, the things that are different and unique to trying to build a law practice. That said, if there's anyone here or anyone online who's interested, who has questions that don't relate to legal entrepreneurship or just entrepreneurship in general, I think the principles and the tenets of entrepreneurship apply. So I'm happy to take any questions related to one thing or the other. I don't like to save all questions to the end. I'm going to try to move relatively quickly so that there is a Q&A period. I always find that to be the most productive time in any lecture, but I don't like to wait at the end. So feel free to interrupt me at any time, so particularly so you don't forget something that you wanted to ask. It won't bother me at all. I always find it to be a lot better if it's interactive. So first off, congratulations. If you're here or if you're watching this either online or watching the tape later, good on you, because you're at least thinking at that point about being an entrepreneur, and which is the hardest, best, most exciting, next to being a dad, building companies is the funnest, most exciting thing I've ever done. And I've done some exciting things. I was a military pilot, multiple combat tours, so I'm no stranger to excitement. And this is the honest truth. Short of being a dad, building companies and the game of business, the game of entrepreneurship is the funnest game I've ever played. So congratulations for even thinking about it. It's a great move. That said, it's not easy. I think I said it's the hardest and the most exciting, and that's a true statement. There's the old aphorism, entrepreneurs quit a 40-hour job so they can work 80. And, truer words were hardly ever spoken. And I think that isn't, you hear about, well, you're the hardest boss you've ever had and that kind of stuff, and being scared and, all those things are true to some extent, but ultimately it's true because you now have 3 jobs when you start a company. The first is to create and or run your business. Just creating a company, as particularly the attorneys are familiar with, this is a massive effort at the beginning. It's not only the incorporation, the sort of documents and everything, but it's licenses and permits and understanding the taxes and the way things work and things you haven't seen before when you're an employee. There's a massive amount of just work that needs to be done to create a company. And that's just the beginning, because it also doesn't count finding a place to work. Whether you're going to do co-working space or lease an office or work out of your basement or your spare bedroom, finding help when you need it. How's that going to work? Am I going to outsource stuff, on the internet to India? Am I going to hire somebody to come in and help me? Am I going to do it all myself? Am I going to ask my spouse, to do my books for the first 12 months? I mean, how am I going to answer all those questions? All those things are challenging questions to answer and then require work. And then once the company exists, there's a reason why companies have management who don't do anything other than run the company. I'm CEO of one of the companies I founded, and I don't contribute anything to the company. I don't put anything on the bottom line. My whole job is just to run the company. And there's, for that company, hundreds of people who don't do anything except run the company and manage it. That's a full-time job in of itself. And so if you have a small company where it's just you, that's going to be you. So somebody's got to run the company, and that's going to be you. That's full-time job number 1. Full-time job number 2 is sales. Again, when you're first starting out as an entrepreneur, you don't have anybody to say, go find me clients, go do sales, go to the networking events and do that stuff. You're going to have to do that yourself. And that's a full-time job. And, companies that do well have sales teams. At the beginning, that's going to be you. And lastly, delivery. That's operations. So you've got the company set up, you figured out where you're going to work, you've got a phone, you've got internet, you've made a website, you're making sure you're legally compliant, everything's good. I go out and I do sales, I get a client, yippee, I have clients, now I have work. That's the best thing in the world. I still remember my first client really, really well, and how exciting that was to actually have someone who's going to come in and pay me as a solo, to solve her legal problems. Well, now I have to do it. I have to do the work, which is also a full-time job. So you find yourself, in the middle of the night, reading a brief, drafting a document, because you were busy during the day actually doing the other 2 full-time jobs. But the rewards are there. It's not easy. I'm not going to lie to you, and everybody's heard it, but man, is it worth it. Because once you get there, even before you get there, again, not only is it exciting, you have autonomy. You can decide what your schedule is. And so you're working 80 hours a week, but you also don't have to miss the soccer games anymore. And if you have a dentist appointment, you don't take 4 hours of personal leave to do it. And if you want to take vacation, the only one who decides whether you can take vacation is you. And that is an awesome thing. And so, I work, again, I founded multiple companies. I work pretty, I'd say, excruciating hours. But I'll tell you this, when it comes to my kids, I don't miss anything. And I haven't for years. So I don't see them as much as I'd like to, but I don't miss a recital or a game or a award ceremony. I don't miss anything. And that's because I manage my schedule and nobody else does. Nobody tells me where to be other than me. So if I do miss something, it's because I messed up, not because I was told that. So it's hard to overstate the value of that autonomy. And not a lot of people have that. Founders do. So as a founder, you're going to have that autonomy. And it's one of the only ways to really get it in our economy, in our world today. Financial freedom. And I'll kind of skip to the bottom on this. Well, let me go to respect to your peers. That's the third one. People love it. When you meet people, you could puff out your chest. And man, it's true in every business. It is a million times truer in law than anything else I've experienced. I talk about the companies I've founded, the success I've had as an entrepreneur and businessman. People get excited about it and they say nice things to me and make me feel good and proud of myself. But when I talk to lawyers and I tell them I quit a big firm job to start my own firm, I'm suddenly a rock star. It's like they're talking to an all-pro NFL player or a rock star, an A-list celebrity, because that's what every lawyer dreams of doing. Every lawyer dreams of being that guy that jumps the fence and goes out and starts his own thing. And it takes guts, and they all look up to it. So you get a lot of respect just for doing it. And let me tell you this, even if it doesn't work, you'll get respect because you tried. And that will last forever. It's on your resume. When I look at a resume and I see someone started their own business, obviously it didn't do as well as they'd hoped, or else they wouldn't be sitting here talking to me. I love seeing that because that tells me they've got courage, they've got commitment, they're willing to take risk. Which leads me to the last thing. The financial rewards I talk about are because in a free market economy, we only reward one thing, and that's risk. That's the way capitalism works. So if you're smart and you work hard and you're committed, wake up to an alarm clock every day, put in a hard day's work, be diligent, responsive to your clients or your boss, wherever it is, you will make good money in this country. One of the things I love about America, right? That opportunity is out there for everybody. You'll make good money. If you want to make real money, you have to take risk. That's the way a free market economy works. It only truly rewards with real money. It only truly rewards one thing, and that's risk. So whether your goal is autonomy, professional respect, or financial rewards, or all three, if financial rewards are in there, and that's one of your goals in life, that you want to make a lot of money, the only way to really make a lot of money is to take risk. And by jumping the fence or starting your own thing or putting your money into a startup business, you're definitely taking risk. So getting started. This is going to be heresy to say this, but I'm not a huge believer in detailed business plans. I think any plan, in a particular business plan, has to be just incredibly stupid and simple. Well, let me strike stupid. let's say we're incredibly simple, because the execution of any plan is always 10 times harder than the actual plan, than you anticipate the plan being. So your plan has to be very, very simple, okay? If someone walks in and hands me a 95-page business plan, honestly, I'm gonna be skeptical. I'm proud of them for taking the time. They feel like they've done all their homework, but I'm gonna be skeptical. Because I wanna know how you, by yourself, with your spouse doing your books if you're lucky, are gonna execute on this 95-page business plan. The other thing is, people come in and they tell you, what's your 3-year plan? Or where do you see yourself in 5 years? So here's an interview tip on top of an entrepreneurship tip. The middle's gone. There is no 3 years. There's no 5 years. In our economy, things are changing so fast and developing so fast between technology, global trade, globalization, political changes. Around here, governmental changes are critically important. Things change and happen so fast. There is no middle. So, and I'm straight up about that. In the companies that I still run, when I sit down with my leadership teams, we don't talk about the middle, and I won't let them. So we have our vision. Here's where we want to go and what we want to be, right? And so, you can decide what that is at the beginning, and you should, all right? And then think about the next quarter and the next year. What am I going to do in the next 3 months? What am I going to do in the next 12 months? That's what you need to think about. And this is true in any business. Because by the time, if you try to make a 3-year plan, it is going to be completely overcome by events in 6 to 9 months. So Clausewitz said, a plan is the benchmark by which we measure the impact of deviations. That's all it is. You can't get married to your plan, but you do need to have one, and just don't make it overcomplicated. So there's 3 components, in my view, to the plan if you're going to start a legal business. Number 1, what am I going to do, right? And I actually like to boil this one down too. Everyone's going to say, you hear a lot of, find your passion, or what is it you care about, or what are you deeply, throw all that away. I mean, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you don't get to do what you care about or what you're passionate about. What you do is what people will pay you to do. I don't even care what you're good at. You might be the best litigator in the world. No one wants to pay you to litigate. Don't litigate, right? And what you hate more than anything is insurance work, but all your clients are coming in because it turns out they want to pay you to do insurance work. You should do insurance work. So that's what you get, right? That's one of the gives that you're going to have as an entrepreneur. And frankly, it's true anywhere, right? As an employee, if I want to litigate, but nobody wants to pay to do it, I'm going to have the same issue. So figure out what people are going to pay you to do, all right? Again, not what you're good at. And for God's sakes, don't chase your passion, all right? Your passion is what you do in your spare time, all right? I'm passionate about things. I love to fly, all right? I fly when I have time. I don't try to make my living as a pilot. I love scuba diving. You don't see me living in Cancun teaching scuba diving, right? Chase your passion in your spare time. That's what hobbies are for. That's why you have time off. Do what people will pay you to do and focus on that. Number 2, you got to figure out your runway. So there's 2 things you're going to devote at the macro level, 2 things you're going to devote to this new enterprise. Number 1, time. Number 2, money. Figure out how much of each of those things you're willing to give. So in order to do that, figure out your burn rate. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rent a Chisel office, or I'm going to work out of my basement, or I'm going to rent my own office. So that's my office. And then I got to have internet. I got to have a phone. I need some money for gas to drive around. I still got to pay my mortgage. I got to do all these other things. Figure out what your burn rate is. So here's what my monthly costs are. This is probably going to be the most time-consuming thing you do up front, because you have got, take my word for this, you have to drill down to the micro level, down to every can of soda, every parking fee you're going to pay. Make a budget and figure out what it's costing you to not only survive, but launch this new enterprise every month. Now I've got my burn. So my burn, I'll make up a number, $10,000 a month. That's what it's costing me to, pay all my bills, and, including my corporate bills now, $10,000 a month. How much money do I have? Well, I don't know. I saved up 20 grand over the last few years. I could get a second mortgage on my house and get another 150. right? So that's $170,000. Am I willing to spend it all? Let's say, yeah, I'm willing to throw all my money at this. I now have 17 months to make this work. And that's my runway. Or time. Say, look, I'm doing well. I'm working at the big firms, or I've got another job and I'm doing well and I'm happy with it. They're happy with me. I don't want to take too much time away from that for this new endeavor because my career is kind of moving forward. So I'm only willing to do 12 months. I may have more money left, but I'm only willing to do 12 months. Figure out what your runway is, time and money, and discipline yourself to stick to it. What you don't want is to be 5 years down the line. You're still futzing around with it. It's like that minor league baseball player that's in his 30s that's waiting to get called up to the majors, and every other professional ship has sailed. Figure out what your runway is and be disciplined about it. So I've got 170 grand, it's 10 grand a month, expenses to make this thing work. I'm going to decide I'm going to take 14 months. That'll leave me $30,000. So I make a transition to the next thing, I'm going to go 14 months. And I am going to go as hard as I can and give it everything I've got for 14 months. If it doesn't work, after 14 months, I'm going to go get a job. And now I've decided, and what that will do is that takes all the scary out of it now. I've already decided, here's what I'm going to put towards this. And it's like any other investment I've ever made in my life. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but it takes the scary out of it. I've now decided, here's the time and energy I'm willing to put into this. And I don't make it, no problem. I tried this, it didn't work. I'm going to go get a different job. I'm going to put this on my resume. I've learned a lot. I'll be better for the experience. And then I'm going to move on to the next thing. Once you've done those two things, get to work with the 3 jobs that I talked about earlier. And don't hesitate. Just start, because every day now, once you've got your plan together and you figured out what your runway is, every day you're burning runway, right? And you got to get the plane off the ground before you're out of runway. So the other thing, other than taking the scary out of it, having a runway will give you that sense of urgency. That I'm not going to bang away at this for 10 years until something maybe happens. Go ahead.
How do you know when to stop? A lot of times when entrepreneurs start a business, right? Regardless of I'm almost there. And you're going through your life savings, going through your house equity and everything else, and then all of a sudden it's failing. The family, the wife divorcing, and all that kind of stuff. How do you know when to stop?
Yeah. So the question is, how do you know when to stop? Because, and this is you've hit upon the thing that will make it hard. If you're getting to the end of the runway, and you feel like you're close, it could be tempting. But let me tell you this: you're always this way in business. You're always one huge deal, one huge client. You've always got stuff in the hopper that if that comes through, I'm set. I've made it. You have, like I said, you've got to stay disciplined. Decide on the front end what you're willing to invest in this and be disciplined about it. When you run out of runway, go do something else. And because you will always be one new client, one big deal, one big opportunity from blowing the lid off it, and I shouldn't quit now. And you will turn around. Now you've got a 3rd mortgage on your house. You've borrowed money from your in-laws, and you've got all kinds of issues. So if you've done your homework up front, you said, here's what I'm willing to invest. That's your plan, and work with it. So I would urge you, it's funny, you're going to hear, I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm not up here to tell you, never quit, follow your passion, keep banging away, you'll get there. That's terrible advice, in my view. That's terrible advice. Right? Because it's like on American Idol, and they're like, don't quit. And then who's a Simon guy? He's like, no, you should quit. Right? You're not that good of a singer. You should sing in the church choir and go get a job. In my view, Simon is the guy. The other two aren't doing him any favors by telling them that they should keep plugging away at something that isn't going to work. So again, not my job to motivate you. My job is to tell you how to be a good entrepreneur. Now, it doesn't mean you won't ever try again, right? You might go back to work for a year or two, save up some money, build some more networks. Maybe the time wasn't right yet, right? But give yourself some time. I started my first company in my 40s. Right? I didn't have the networks. I didn't have the experience. I couldn't have succeeded prior to that.
questions, two are related. Number one, how do you ensure your spouse is on board? Number two, why would I want to take a risk on a job, on a career I can't stand? For example, of you hate insurance, but that's what people pay you for. Why would I just stay where I am? Because I'm going to risk everything for a profession I can't stand at some point. I'm going to get up in the morning and say, this job reeks.
Yeah, so
I don't quite get that.
yeah, so in addition to not being a motivational speaker, I'm also not a marriage counselor. So I, I don't know how to get your wife on board. I can say this. This is just my personal experience. My wife knew I was unhappy at the big firm, right? And so when I decided to make the jump, she was actually happy for me. She knew it was going to hurt and that there was a lot of risk to it, and she supported me because she knew it would make me happier.
So what you did is you talked to her and she saw that you were unhappy, so it made her more likely to do that. A lot of times you have spouses who say, you're going to give up our health insurance, you're going to give this up, you're going to give that up. So what you basically just communicate with her. Had she been opposed to it, would you have done it?
No.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, ultimately, this is a little bit old school, but I view myself as a provider, right? And I would not have trashed my marriage to start a company. Again, but we're here to talk about entrepreneurship, not marriage. I don't know whether that's a good approach or not. I do know this: the fact that I had a really good plan helped, right? And again, I'll give you, coming back to my business plan thing. If I dropped a 70-page business plan on the kitchen table and said, "Here it is, baby, we're going to make it work," it never, right? But it was simple. Here's what I'm going to do. So, at a very high level, you talk about the vision. I saw space. Right? I looked out in the legal market. And what I saw was a lot of solos and a few really big firms. And I saw space. There are no mid-sized firms. There's tons of mid-sized accounting firms. There's very few mid-sized full-service law firms. They're just not out there. So when you outgrow that solo, but you don't want to pay $1,000 an hour on K Street, where do you go? So I saw space. And I thought I could capitalize on that. And so that was, again, very simple plan. That very simple vision. And I sat down with her. I said, here's how much money we have. We took out another mortgage on the house. And I promise you, I guess I'm getting to marriage counseling now. I promise you, when this is all I'm going to put into it, right? I want to give it a year, and here's the amount of money. And after that, I will go back to the firm, right? And so that's all I'm asking is you give me a year and this much money. And if I can't make it work, I'll go back to the firm. There you go. There's more motivation to stop. I promised my wife I would stop. So it doesn't help that I was a litigator, so I talk people into things for a living, right? So what was the other question?
The other question is, you said earlier, you should do what people want to pay you for. So if you're a litigator, no one pays you for saying you do insurance, you hate insurance, but you do that. That's what you should do. And my question is, I thought the whole thing about starting your own business, there is a passion to it. But I mean, if you wake up every morning and think I'm going to go do something I don't really like every day, why would I want to risk my house and everything else for that?
Yeah, I think it's for the other two things.
Okay.
Right? The financial freedom, the respect to your peers, the autonomy, right? It's for those other things. And my experience, my professional experience, which is now pretty vast, there's no jobs where it's all great. Most jobs are mostly you don't like what you do, and when I was I was an attack helicopter company commander in the Army flying Apaches, and mostly my job was terrible, right? I mean, the times when I was in the cockpit blowing things up with an attack helicopter was fantastic. But the rest of the time I'm doing paperwork and I'm trying to counsel soldiers and it's just, I didn't like most of it, right? And I learned early on, I've got the greatest job in the world and mostly I don't like it, right? It's just the way it is. That's why they call it work. So I wouldn't get, again, I stand by that advice. Don't get too wrapped up in what you're spending your time plugging away and getting paid to do. Because you're never going to find that thing where you just whistling zippity-doo-dah and skipping, back and forth to your office every day. It's mostly work. So do's and don'ts. I got a few of these. Decide what you want to do up front. I talked about this. Do you want a firm or a solo practice? So what I've found, and this will be encouragement for those of you thinking about shingling out, the reason why there aren't a lot of mid-sized law firms is you can make a lot of money and not work very hard as a solo. It takes some time to build a practice up. But there are lots of solos, lots and lots of solos out there who live 2 blocks from the courthouse. They take whatever comes in the door. They've got 1 to 3 paralegals working for them, one of whom answers the phone, who do about 90% of the work. They do, in my view, varying degree of quality, mostly not good, of work for whoever comes in. But they make a lot of money doing it, by the hour, but they're making a lot of money. And why would I change that? Why would I start hiring people and trying to grow a firm when I can, again, live 2 blocks from the courthouse, going when I feel like it? The paralegals do most of it, and I'm making $500 or $600 grand a year. It's plenty. And so there's lots of people like that. So do you want to be a solo? Which, again, this is the encouragement part. And many of you probably worked with or interacted with some of these solo practitioners. They're not that good of lawyers. So just about anybody can pull that off, I think. If you want to do that, focus on that. If you want to grow the firm, it's a different thing. There's a lot more risk, right? You want to start hiring associates, building different practice groups, networking with lawyers and trying to put something together and find bigger offices, all that. Now the rewards are there. Again, all that's risk, which also leads to rewards and real money, because that solo is still getting paid by the hour ultimately. Whereas, if you've got 20 lawyers working, you're getting a little bit of all of it. You can make real money, as I said. So decide up front what you want to do, because you're going to have to drive hard in that direction. Now, it doesn't mean you can't shift, right? If you're doing the solo thing, you're making good money. You say, you know what? I'm making whatever. Make up a exciting number. $500,000 a year. I'm going to take the next year. I'm going to take 250 of that. I'm going to put it back into the firm. I'm going to hire somebody, try to start a new practice group, recruit another partner to work with me. I'm there. So again, I told you earlier, don't get married to your plan. If you see opportunity, be ready to shift. I talked about dreams or passion. Don't. And particularly in law, and I love this about law. So many people get into law because they want to help people. And, one of the things I love about law school is hearing people's stories. Like, why are you here? And so many of them are because, my uncle, got in all kinds of trouble and nobody could help him. And I want to be the person that helps that person. And I think we all, when we went to law school, we kind of imagined that we'd be that person. You can be someday. Don't do that now. This sounds terrible. I tell lawyers that are trying to start their own practices, don't do pro bono work. You don't have time, right? You have got to get the plane off the ground, right? And once the plane's flying, you've got some freedom to maneuver. But when you're on the runway and you haven't taken off yet, just get the plane off the ground. You can't think about anything else. The expression I've heard is, first you can make it, then you can make a difference. So you'll get a chance to make a difference, but you got to make it first. Forget niche. It's what, you just said it, right? So I used to tell people at the beginning, like, do you do that? And I would say straight up, yes, I do that. I'm like a bear that, lives in the cave. Bears will eat anything, right? Anything comes by the mouth of the cave, I will come out and eat it, right? And so I will do it. And if they say, well, you're done it before, no, but I promise you I can figure it out. And I'll charge you less money than anyone else will, and I'll do a better job. But yes, I will do that. So be a bear. Eat whatever comes out. Yeah.
So how do you convince them that you'll do a better job if you've never done it before?
Charge less money to start with, right? So tell them, look, whatever. Hey, can you do wills? Yes. Okay. So how many wills have you done? None. Okay. All right. I've never done a will before, but you're going to pay 10 grand for this. If you go down the street, I'll do it for you for $1,000. Right. And it's going to take me a lot of time. I'm to do research, figure it out. I'm a smart guy. I'm a good lawyer. Right? Give me a chance, or even go longer. You don't like it, don't pay me. Right? But I'll give you a deal on it because it's going to take me some time to get up to speed on this. I won't charge you for any of that. Don't take on clients who won't pay. Man, in law, this is the hardest thing to do. I don't know how to overstate how hard it is to do this. And anyone who's practiced law around me has heard me use the expression, it's better to not work and not get paid than work and not get paid. And particularly when you started, you just want to take anything from anybody because you're scared and you're trying to get the plane off the ground. Retainers are a good way There's a reason why the retainer system is developed. And retainers are a good way to gauge whether a client's willing to pay. You know, a good rule of thumb is that a client that's not willing to give you a retainer is not going to be willing to pay their bill. And now it's only a rule of thumb. You know, there are people in this building who will say, don't work without a retainer. I'm not going to say that. I've worked without a retainer many, many, many times, right? So some of it's your own judgment on whether they're going to be willing to pay. But be careful about clients that won't pay. I don't know of another circumstance like this, but people hate to pay their lawyers. You know, you pay the yard guy, right, who comes in, who didn't keep you out of prison or save your business, right? They pay him, but they don't pay the lawyer. You know, I don't know why it is, but it's a fact. People don't like to pay their lawyers. So look out for clients that you don't think will pay. Drill down if you have to. Ask them how you think they'll pay. Ask them what their means are. If they're not willing to give you a retainer, ask them why. And I would say exactly what I just said. Look, I told you this is going to cost you $10,000. Why won't you give me the 10 grand? Right? I'm worried that because you won't give it to me now, you're not ever going to give it to me. Because people don't like to pay their lawyers. I'll tell them that. So manage your contacts. Find ways to keep in touch. It amazes me to this day, you know, I'll be standing watering my lawn, standing next to my next door neighbor who's lived next to me for 19 years and who I've had dinner with once or twice a week with our families for 19 years and whose, you know, daughter I watched walk down the aisle, and I'll say something and go, oh, that's right, you're a lawyer. You know, you're just not important to people. All right, so again, I'm not a motivational speaker. You are unimportant to people. I'll just say, right? But remember that you're not important to people, right? So they're going to forget you're a lawyer. So and it will infuriate you when you find out that some case that you would have loved to have had and could have taken when you're standing watering the lawn with your neighbor. And he's like, yeah, and I sent him to McGuire Woods. And you're like, really? I could have done that for a lot less money. I would have done a better job. Because, oh, and he said, but I could have done that. Oh, that's right. I forgot you're a lawyer. So be a pain in the neck about reminding people that you're a lawyer. Just tell them, talk to them, remind them. Find ways to send emails. Put stuff on your Facebook page. Put stuff on your LinkedIn. Instagram your briefs. I don't know. Do any. Well, you shouldn't Instagram your briefs. Instagram something. Don't let people forget that you're a lawyer and you're out there trying to work. Don't underestimate the value of those referrals, but it's on you. You can't sit around and expect them to think of you or remember you because they won't. So don't spend too much time speaking and writing and blogging and all that. This is another one that's counter to the conventional wisdom. There's truth to the fact that you can build a law practice by being a thought leader. But you don't have time for that when you're trying to get the plane off the ground. So I see too many lawyers, they're trying to start their own practices that all I do is I see them running around to stuff. They're sitting on panels and they're blogging and they're trying to get published. Stop all that. You have got to do work that you get paid to do. Once you're getting paid and the plane is off the ground, like a lot of other things I've talked about, you've got some freedom to maneuver now. And then you can start being a thought leader and doing that. You've got to focus on revenue when you first get started. Same reason you got to take whatever comes in the door. Because the only way to get the plane off the ground is to get money coming in. Every dollar you get gives you more runway to get off the ground. Ask for work. Man, this is probably the hardest thing. You know, but you have got to ask. You got to ask your friends, your family, your colleagues. And I can't overstate how awkward, almost painful it is to do this, but you've got to do it. You know, when you're having a drink with a buddy, ask him what's going on in his job and say, do you need any legal work? Is there anything I can help you with? Can you introduce me? You don't know anything about it? Who's the guy who does? Can you introduce me? You have to ask. You'll get more work from your friends and family than anyone else. But you've got to ask. Do it no matter how hard it is. And if you feel like you can't muster up the guts to do it, look at the end of the runway, and that'll remind you. The end of the runway's coming, right? I'm barreling down it right now, so I need to get some work in here. So don't spend all your time practicing either. no matter how much work you get, you've got to kill yourself, right? So even if I'm full-time and it's booming and it's great and I got all this work and everything's going great, you still have to get out there and get more work because the work you have will run out. Right? And one of the unfortunate things about being a lawyer, one of the fortunate things is great. It's always something different every day. The unfortunate thing is it's always something different every day. Right? I don't have clients that are going to pay me $5,000 a month every month just in case they need me. So that means you got to run the roads. And the way I put that there, I think everyone get this presentation, right? Okay, so read that over and over. Breakfast, coffee, lunch, coffee, drinks, dinner, drinks, repeat. Okay, and that is a grueling day that I just described. But get on, and what I used to put it in blocks, right? Because I'm busy doing the other things I got to do, right? That's the sales part. I got 2 other full-time jobs. So I blocked the sales, and I would get on, start writing colleagues, friends, people from church, anyone I could, and I would book just what I said. And I would do 1 or 2 days in a row like that, and you're ready to collapse by the end. But invariably that would bring in work. And I would pitch them like crazy and ask them for work, even if they were my friends. So the pitch. When it comes time to give the pitch, I'm going to give you a few pointers here on how to pitch legal work. I always would start with a story. So, my story was I was a big firm lawyer who realized that my firm was charging me too much money, charging too much money for me. That I could do the same work for less money and clients could get the benefit of me without paying the rates that they were paying at my firm. I'm still the same guy. I'm just cheaper. That was my story. So that's just the beginning of the pitch. So think about what your story is, and I can help you with some of them if you want to develop what your story is. But it has to be, you want it to be something compelling. There needs to be a reason for why you wanted to do what you do. I know I said don't find your passion, but what you're doing and what your sales pitch is totally different, right? You could, if your story is, I want to do estates and trusts because my uncle died intestate and his kids couldn't go to college. That's why I'm doing this. So, which leads immediately into why they should hire you, because I believe in this. I'm not just writing your will to get you so I can send you a bill. I'm writing your will because I've seen how catastrophic it can be to an entire family if that doesn't happen. And I will not let that happen to you. If you hire me, I promise you, I won't let that happen to you because I've seen it in my own family. So that starts with the story, rolls right into why they should hire you. And tell them you're different. Just what I just said. I'm different from all the estates and trust lawyers out there that you're going to talk to because here's what happened to me and here's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Right? So I'm different. You don't even necessarily have to feel like you're different, but you are. Right? Everyone has their own reason for doing what they're doing. Tell that story and don't be shy about it. I talked about it. One of the things I love about law school. Why are you in law school? Everyone's got a story. Maybe that's your story, but tell it. Let them hear that. And it personalizes what they do. And what it convinces the client is that you're going to be more than what they'll get from someone else because you're a real person who has a real reason for what he's doing. I used to talk about the term. So my thing was, I don't want to be just a guy that sends you a bill. There's plenty of lawyers out there that can just look at your documents and send you a bill. I want to be more than that. I'm not going to charge you for this, but I want to be that trusted advisor. The consigliere. My first business cards, I had Joe Fluet and I put attorney and counselor at law. And I'm amazed by the number of people that I found out hired me because it said counselor on there, right? And I just put it on there because what I wanted to be, right? But the clients really liked it. So there's a little tip. The card doesn't say it anymore. But it used to, right when I was first starting out, attorney and counselor at law. So from a business perspective, and this really applies to anybody, is say, I understand that, and you notice I use we a lot here. If you've got anybody working for you, you're we, right? Even a receptionist. Now you're we. Because we's good. We seems, the expression fake it till you make it. We seems like I've got a little more juice behind me, and that gives clients comfort, right? So, we understand. You don't want someone to just look at your documents and send you bills, right? You don't like paying legal bills. Nobody does. I don't. right? I've paid lawyers. I don't like it, right? So I get that. So we understand business, right? And you can tell someone, I particularly understand business. I'm in business for myself, right? So you go to K Street, all those lawyers got out of law school, they got hired by a law firm. They don't have the foggiest idea what it's like to run a business, to own a business, to be an entrepreneur. I do, because I'm doing that right now. Man, that is compelling to them. So I used to, and another thing I tell people is, I promise you, I will tell you when you don't need me, right? I want you to grow. So I'm not going to just view you as an ATM machine that I can find things to do and send you bills. So if there's a project where you don't need me, or there's someone else I know who's better than me, I promise you I will tell you that, right? Because I'm taking the long view. If your business grows and succeeds, if you get done what you need to get done, you will tell your friends, and they'll come to me, or you'll come back to me someday. So as long as I'm taking that view. I talked about how you say we understand you because we do what we do what you do, right? And I want to just hammer home one point. I was never shy about telling them other lawyers don't, right? I'm not commenting on their talent as a lawyer, right? What I'm saying is they don't understand what it's like to be in business because they're just employees. And unless you've done it, unless you've run a business or started a business or founded a business, you can't get it. But I do. Last thing is getting you to yes, right? Clients get very tired of lawyers telling them you can't do that. And it's the easiest thing to do as an attorney, right? Oh, yeah, I can't do that. You'll get in trouble. Or it doesn't work. It's too hard. And the expression I always just say is, we'll get you to yes, right? And I stole this one from Fran Song sitting back there. Other lawyers want to manage your risk. We want to help you manage your growth. So you want a word that gets business people excited? Growth. That's the word. They all want to grow, right? So other lawyers can try to manage your risk down to zero, and they'll end up putting you in handcuffs. We just want to manage your growth. So communicating with the client. I used to give this as one example of how we were different. I didn't charge for quick emails, short duration phone calls. You got something that I can solve in a few minutes, or I can just talk you through on the phone, call me. You won't get a bill for that. Talk about clients getting ecstatic about that. They love that because they're so used to being afraid to call their lawyers because it costs money. And so the expression I used to use, and you should steal this one. I said, my favorite clients are the ones that call me the minute they have a question, the minute they think they have a problem. The ones that pay my mortgage are the ones who don't. Right? By the time they call you, they're like, the FBI just left here, and they took all the files, and there's a lawsuit, and I got another employee that's suing me, and it's a massive mess. Again, yeah. So you have that example. So everybody's had that happen, and so those are the clients that pay my mortgage. But those aren't my favorite clients. My favorite clients are the ones that call me, and we talk something through for 15 minutes, and I make sure that they don't go the wrong direction early on, and I won't charge you for that. That's how important it is to me that you be my favorite client. I don't want you to be the client that pays my mortgage. I mean, I do, right? Right? But I'm not going to tell the client that, right? I don't want you to be the client that pays my mortgage. I want you to be one of my favorite clients, which is why I'm not going to charge you if it's something I can put to bed quickly. Man, they love that. I never hear that. I used to tell clients, another thing you can use too is, and I would say it's an initial pitch. I know I've succeeded when clients call me with good news. You just always call me, I have a problem, this is wrong, the FBI just left, blah, blah, blah. The clients that call me and say, we won the contract. My daughter got married, whatever. When the clients call you with good news, man, you've made it. That's the client you want. That's the relationship you want. And I used to tell them that straight up. So now you've done your pitch, right? So you've talked about who you are, where you came from, why you're different, how you're going to. So here's my story, kind of breaking it down. Here's my story. Here's why I'm different. Here's why you should hire me. And then here's the examples of how I'm different, right? I'm not going to charge you if you call me up for this. Then you got to close the deal. And that's one of the hardest things to do in any business situation. But in services business, it's particularly hard, right? You're not selling cars where you say, look, what, you want me to cut the interest rate? You don't have any of that, right? So you got to close the deal. So I'm giving you some quotes to use to close a deal, some things to say. You know, let me send you an engagement letter. I have closed, I don't know how many clients with that very expression. Because, again, that kind of takes the scary out of it. You say, well, what do you mean? Well, it's not a contract. It is. It's an engagement letter, right? And you know, if you don't owe any money, but what it does is it formalizes the attorney-client relationship between us. And then everything you say is privileged, and you can come to me and talk to me, and now you have a lawyer. Everybody likes that, right? All I'm doing is formalizing the attorney-client relationship. So now it's all privileged, and I've got a lawyer. The best part about that is now he has a lawyer, right? So when something does go wrong, I need to call my lawyer, and you're already in. You're the person's lawyer. You know, you need to get started on this right away. I'm very concerned about this. You know, if during your conversation you've identified something, don't be shy about telling them that. You know, it's like a doctor. Maybe nothing, you know, but we really should check this out. And look, I understand that you're, you know, whatever, you're just starting your company, or I understand that you've just spent a lot of money on this new contract, but this could be significant. And I just want to make sure that you're not going to run into problems down the line. So let me take a look at this. That works a lot. Lastly, I used to call this a well-child checkup. People bring in their kids. Doctors say, bring in your kids when they're healthy. Right? I don't want to see them sick. You know, bring them in when they're healthy once in a while. Just want to give them a once over. Make sure everything's okay. Then I can also have baseline. I can tell, you know, when they're sick. But more importantly, just there might be something that isn't obvious. So let me take a look at it. So I used to sell a lot of well-child checkups for businesses. And I would use that analogy. You've got kids, right? You bring in your kids, right? Let me take a look at this. So, you know, you do government contracts. You know, let me take a look at your standard contracts, your NDAs, your teaming agreements. These are simple contracts. Let me take a look at them because you could really run into some problems. You know, I'll do it cheap. You know, a couple grand, let me take a look at it. Again, now you've closed the deal, particularly if they paid you a little bit of money. So the well-child checkup is a good way to sort of foot in the door. So who do you want to pitch? It really depends on who you're talking to. With startups, it's the founders. A lot of lawyers found companies, not just legal companies, but other ones. So one of the nice things that kind of cuts both ways. They understand they need legal because they're lawyers. They also can be a complete pain in the neck to work for because they're lawyers. So it kind of cuts both ways. The others, counterintuitively, it's very rarely the CEO. So people think I'm a CEO. So people think, oh, I know the CEO, so I'm in. I got the job. I don't hire anybody. You know, I don't pick lawyers and accountants. I don't pick. You know, one of the companies I founded doesn't always use this law firm that I founded. Right? I've got a general counsel that picks what law firm we use, and sometimes he picks this firm, sometimes he picks a different firm. So the ultimate example, the CEO doesn't decide everything. So you got to figure out who's the person who's responsible for compliance, because that's where you're going to come in, is in compliance. So that's the CFO, the COO, the general counsel. Sometimes there's a director of compliance. So, you know, and how do you figure that out? Just ask. If you meet the CEO at a networking event, well, who does your compliance? Sometimes they'll be like, gosh, I don't know. So look, not trying to tell you to run your company, but you probably have someone who at least takes a look at that. I know this because that's what I do, right? And then at that point, they'll be like, yeah, I should probably ask the CFO to do that. Well, great. If you want to give me his name, I'll give him a call. You know, I'm no charge. Just don't talk to him, let him know I'm out there. Now you've got your entry point. The other big one, big people to pitch who aren't clients are referral partners. And this goes a little bit to your breakfast, coffee, lunch, coffee. You know, these should go in there. Your CPAs are probably your best source. These mid-size accounting firms. Get on their list of people they think of when their clients ask them about a law firm, you know, who that's going to be. But it's also other professionals, you know, the insurance guys out there, bankers, you know, again, CPAs are good, but any kind of outside professionals is always an excellent referral partner. Other lawyers, if you're going to, as you build your practice, you start to have a niche, you know, make sure that other lawyers know this. And that's going to the bar events and, you know, chamber events, that kind of stuff. Make sure it's out there and people know what you do so you can refer. best way to get lawyers to refer to you is to tell them you're going to refer to them, right? So don't start with, hey, Joe Fluet, I'm a litigator. Send me all your clients because I'm the best there is. You don't really care about that. Joe Fluet, what do you do? What kind of law do you practice? Oh, I'm IP. Oh man, I tell you, I look up to you guys. I can't do math. So good job on the technical degree. I was too scared of the patent bar. And start talking to him. And let him know. I'm so good. And then 2/3 of the conversation. Hey, can I get your card? Like I get IP cases all the time. And like I said, I can't do math. So I would love to have somebody I could refer to, that I trust my clients with. Now, you've started it. Don't expect them to reciprocate until you've offered that. Chamber of Commerce, that's what it's for. The Chamber is an amazingly effective organization for networking. It really doesn't do anything else. I'm sure you can look at their charter and find out what they say they do. What they really do is provide networking opportunities for business people. So make sure you do that. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, everything you can do. I talked about this before. Just be relentless about doing that. And, all you got to do is post in Facebook. You can post funny stuff, the dead rat sitting outside the courthouse or whatever, just reminding people that you're out there and what you do. School, whatever your law school is, most law schools have robust alumni networks. Again, the more people thinking about you, the more referrals you think you can get, will add up. And then there's community stuff, coaching and church and synagogue and, volunteer organizations and the leadership councils and, all that kind of stuff. Again, if you're going to do it anyway, try to do the best you can to get referrals. Make sure people know what's going on. When I was coaching soccer, I had law firm, the little folding chairs, the soccer chairs everybody has. I had chairs printed with the law firm logo on the back. So that, so those were sitting out there. So while I'm standing there coaching, they all know Coach Fluet, there's my name on the back of the chair as a law firm, just to remind people that I'm a lawyer. Once in a while, a parent would come up and say, hey, somebody stole my car and I'm fighting with the insurance company. Can you help me out? Family and friends I've talked about, okay? And I'm going to say it one more time. You have to ask. You will never get the plane off the ground unless you ask for work. And I know it's hard. And business cards that say counselor, be obsessive about passing them out. So GovCons, I had a couple categories I think are worth talking about in specific because they're so ubiquitous around here. So if you're doing business, government contractors are out there. The term I use all the time is U.S. government is a terrible customer. They're really, really hard to work for, but they got all the money, right? And so that's where you should go. You're doing the right thing, Mr. Government Contractor, business person, because you are chasing the customer that has all the money. But it's really, really hard. There's rules, there's regulations. I just list a few, but there's it goes on and on. You could fill, and they do, fill libraries with the regulations and rules that you're subject to the second you take $1 from the U.S. government. That's a scary thing. And I tell people all the time, as a government contractor, you can survive almost anything. A lawsuit, equal opportunity issue, contract dispute, whatever. Building can burn down, computers can crash, a compliance issue, and you're done. Right? One major compliance issue, and you are out of the game. So everything you've worked for, your whole business that you built, he risked everything too, start his company, it's all gone if there's a major compliance issue. That's what I'm here for. I'll keep that from happening. So, and I, again, using the term we, whenever people said, can you do this? I'd say yes. I can either do it myself or I can do it through my networks. I've got referral partners, whatever it is, I can cover it for you. If you're going to pitch government contractors, you do need to understand a lot about what they do, which means taking a CLE or just going on Amazon, which is full of books on government contracting, and just reading them. So you can speak intelligently on things like CAS and ICs versus full-time contractors and deployment schedules and Defense Base Act insurance and the 1,000 other things that go with being a government contractor. But you need to be able to speak intelligently because they're going to ask you. They'll say, I have a problem with my coder. Right? That stands for contracting officer, technical representative. If you don't know what that is, you're probably out of the game. So I would urge you to get smart on that if you want to be a business lawyer, because you are going to have government contractors as clients. That's just a given. One big thing that I used to talk about with government contractors is this. I can help you find referral partners, or teaming partners, rather. One of the hardest things in government contracting is finding partners to bid on things with, right? If the government wants to hire, someone to build, what do you call this thing? Podium? Build podiums, right? You need somebody who does the screws and somebody that does the plexiglass and someone who knows how to market it. And so, there's 10 different skill sets in building a podium. And I'm just the guy that does screws. I need to find somebody who does all the rest of that stuff before I can bid on the government's new giant podium contract, that's coming out for all their podiums in the DOD, in the next 5 years. And so, oh yeah, you need a plexiglass guy? Let me help you find that guy. Right? You do it for free, and now you're their lawyer forever. Last point to kind of reiterate the danger of the compliance risk. I use a term with government contractors who came from DOD, which you get a lot of, like GIs and veterans. PSD stands for Personal Security Detachment. Those are your bodyguards, right? So a lot of GIs have either been in or been around PSDs when they're in the military. The job of a PSD is to keep you safe while not getting in your way, right? So they should be invisible if they're doing their job right. They keep you from getting killed while you're trying to do your job. I used to use the term all the time. We're a legal PSD, right? We are not going to get in your way. I'm not going to slow you down. I'm just going to make sure that you don't get whacked while you're trying to do what you do, right? And your veteran business owners or business people will understand that. Litigation. I used to use, because I had big firm litigation experience, I used to use that, but you don't need that. You can say, we're a small firm with big firm capability. And I don't know anyone here is a chiseler, but one of the things you get with Chisel is access to the other lawyers, the paralegals, all that stuff. But if you want to do litigation, which if you can do it, you should, because that's probably the area where you can really make the best money. You want to pitch yourself as being just as good but less expensive. Companies go broke hiring litigators because it's so expensive. So the overall pitch needs to be, I can do what the big firms do. I'm not afraid of the big firms. Here's how I can bring in the resources I need and ramp up if I have to without charging you all that overhead with, golden fountains that the big firms all have. Landing a client who already has a lawyer. I would always start by saying, this happens to us all the time, right? Either you've outgrown your other lawyer and you need someone who's as good as I am. I used to use the expression all the time. You started with the lawyer at the strip mall. And I'd be careful to say, like, nothing wrong with lawyers at strip malls. I started in a strip mall, right? But I'm not a strip mall lawyer anymore. And I get that. So everybody starts as a strip mall lawyer. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but you've outgrown that. You need somebody with my level of talent now, right? And I'm puffing myself up, but it's sales, right? So it's not time to be shy. So you've either outgrown your other lawyer, or you're in a situation where you think your lawyer's made a mistake, or you have a problem, or they haven't done as well as they should have. So I'd always start with, this happens to me all the time. Don't worry about it. I got this. I'll talk to the lawyer. Right? Nobody wants to fire anybody, so they don't want to call their lawyers and fire them up. I'll handle that. I'll talk to them. I won't try to take things over or like run them under the ground. We will massage the situation until we've got control of what's going on, and then we'll go forward from there. And it'll be invisible to you. I do this all the time, and you won't have to do anything awkward. I promise you that. So the other thing I would say is, if I'm talking to someone and I'm doing the thing where I would roll into the pitch and it becomes clear to the person that I'm talking to that I'm pitching them at an event or at one of the coffee breakfast, thing, I've got a lawyer who I love. I would always say the same thing. Oh my God, Everybody hates their lawyers. If you actually like your lawyer, for God's sakes, you should stay with them, right? Because nobody likes their lawyers. And I would leave it at that. They love to hear that, but they will call you eventually, right? Because what that says to them at a fundamental level that they don't even hear is, I'll be that lawyer. So they may not actually like their lawyers. They may just be trying to get you to shut up, right? But by saying, if you like your lawyer, you should keep them because nobody likes their lawyers. So good on you. What they're hearing is, ooh, this person will be the lawyer that I like. And so they'll call you eventually. Last thing, you get the other you might get the other side. They start just railing on it. I think you screwed this up and blah, 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 blah. So here's some things I put in quotes because they're just so easy for you to just push a button on the side of your head and this poof, comes out of your mouth. And what I would always say when I hear that is just what I said. Look, I don't criticize other lawyers. It's one of my rules. So here's all I'm going to say. That's probably not how I would have handled that. You know, you leave it at that, and they're like, well, of course, the obvious question is, well, how would you have handled it? Well, I actually really would have to take a look at it to give you any details on that. You know, at a high level, I don't think I would have gone that direction, but, you know, I probably really need to take a look at it. Well, I don't know. I've got them. Well, again, if you're happy, for God's sake, stick with them because nobody likes their lawyers. Well, I'm not happy, but well, let's do this. Let me send you an engagement letter, right? And then we form attorney-client privilege, and I can look at this stuff without waiving any privileges or anything like that. I'll send you a letter. Once that's signed, you know, I'll get you to send some stuff over, and I'll take a look at it then. So by the time now, we've gone from, and again, this is sales, right? We've gone from just kind of opening conversation to I don't like my lawyers to I don't know if I want anyone else to look at it to I don't blame you for that. You shouldn't. Blah, blah, but maybe I should. Let me send you a letter. Now they've signed the letter. Let me send you some stuff. Okay, it's gonna take me. You know, I think I can look at all this stuff in 2 hours. You know, that's only gonna be $400. Okay. You know, right? They're already pregnant at that point. All right, we had a few questions in the middle. I should not save anything in the end, but if there's anything left, I'll take them now.
How do you scale? What are some tips with your scale? So it's just you're out there working, creating a lot of success.
Right.
You're trying to bring people on. How do you go from me to everything to scaling to where now I have to actually rely on people?
Yeah, it's really hard. That's probably the hardest question in any business is when do I hire the next person, right? Because you don't know whether I'm drowning in work, which is great. I love this. I can't get it all done and still do my other 2 jobs. Should I bring in a partner or another associate, you know, to do this work? Well, I don't know. Is that work still going to be here in 6 months? You know, I don't know. And that's one of the hardest decisions you can make. People scale in different ways. Some people scale companies sort of on the classic kind of hockey stick you see. Other people stair step them. Right? I'm not going to I'm not going to hire anybody for 4 months. I'm just going to suffer and do it all myself. And presumably after that 4 months, I will save some money. And now if I still need it, then I'll hire somebody. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do that. But every time, that's a judgment call. The only thing I can tell you as a rule while you scale is to manage costs, just be absolutely relentless about managing costs. As you start to scale, costs will get away from you. I promise you this will happen. You know, you'll walk in, you know, you've got 4 or 5 employees and things are going great, and you walk in one day and there's all new furniture. Right? What happened? You know, well, boss, we're sick of this garage sale furniture, so we all bought furniture. That's my money that you went and used the company credit card to buy all new furniture with, right? And nobody checked with me, right? And that's a big example. Little example is like, you know, going to the copy room. Why do we have 5 staplers, right? But managing costs comes down to that. Like, talk to the receptionist. Why do we have 5 staplers? You know, that sends a message, if nothing else, that I'm going to be relentless about costs. So as you scale, your costs aren't just like that next associate. It's everything. It's meals and you know, mileage and everything you can imagine will just pile up and pile up and pile up, and you will drown in costs. And more companies, as they try to scale, fail for this simple reason than any other. They don't have a revenue problem, they have an expense problem. right? And so you're making plenty of money, you're just spending it all. And so, so whether you scale incrementally or as a stair step or smoothly, really, I can't give an answer. That really depends on the situation and your risk tolerance. I can say this: no matter what you do, you have to be relentless about managing costs.
So you mentioned before that at one point you didn't have enough experience, enough connections. So how do you know when you think you have enough experience or connections?
You don't. You know, you're going to be scared no matter what you do. So like I said, I was in my 40s. Now it's not quite analogous because I didn't go to law school. I was in my 30s. So so don't think, oh, I'm not 40, so I shouldn't do it, because Joe said he was in his 40s. So I spent the first 10 years after law school running around flying helicopters. So so you don't. I mean, and that's one of the reasons, if you think you can do it, test the market, right? Figure out what your runway is and put some time into it. Now, let me urge something. I said make a date certain. Don't do less than a year. You will never get the plane off the ground in 2 months. So give yourself enough time to actually take off, right? And so, and if you just can't afford that, crushing debt, whatever, then wait until you can save up enough money or get credit worthy enough to borrow the money to give yourself 12 months. Just give it a little more time. And one nice thing, if you're right out of school, you're used to living like a sewer rat, don't change that, right? Like, that's not a bad time, like right out of school, to start a business, because, I'm used to being broke. Yeah, I'm conditioned to it, right? I don't have any standard of living to undo. And plenty of lawyers get right out of law school, shingle out, and do fine.
So you talked about different ways of scaling, stair step. Do you change your approach if you're turning away business?
I don't turn away business, so I don't really know that.
So if you're not turning away business, but if you don't have enough resources to do the business, that would suggest at that point you scale, even if you said to yourself, I'm not going to hire somebody for another 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, again, and this comes back to don't get too married to your plan, right? So my plan is, I'm overloaded right now. I'm just going to work 20-hour days for 3 months. I'll bank enough money to hire an associate. Then, if a month and a half into it, you've got 2 more clients, and you're now failing to deliver.
Because a lot of this business won't pay. You ask the question.
That's exactly right.
Most is, depending on business, but a lot of this.
They need it now.
Will not be there.
That's absolutely correct. So, or you're failing to deliver. Now you're making clients mad. You're going to hurt your reputation. What do I do now? Right? At that point, again, I might have to adjust my plan. Understanding that it's risk. Understanding, I've been at this for 2 years now. I've got this 4-month period where, I absolutely can't get everything done.
Right.
I know what it's like normally, where I don't need any help. So it's scary at that point. Do I adjust my plan and hire somebody now? And then 4 months, all these projects are done. Now what I'm doing, I'm staring at someone I'm writing a check to every 2 weeks, who's not working. But that's where the judgment call comes in. Also the risk, right?
How much preparation, in addition to, planning, how much do you have in place? You said, obviously there's the solo lawyers, but you wanted to be mid-size. How many people did you have in place? How many resources before jumping into it?
None. Just me. I figured I'd figure it out as I went along, and so, I mean, I knew people that I had in mind. So the people I had in mind were people that I thought were really good lawyers and crazy enough to jump on the train with me, right? So you really had to be those 2 things, at the beginning. And my first 2 partners met met both of those criteria. And so I kind of had them in mind. Was able to talk them both into joining up. I don't know if I hadn't, who knows how things would have gone. But no, I did not. But I didn't talk to anybody about it. I just did it. So I didn't say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this in 6 months if I need you. What do you think? I didn't do it. To me, that didn't seem useful, right, until I needed them. So I just started off, and I was fully prepared to fly solo as long as necessary, as long as I could get the plane off the ground. All right, anything else? Okay, thank you very much.